All right, everybody, welcome back inside another episode of the Alphabet Challenge from PilotEdge here on the Midlife Pilot YouTube channel. I'm Chris. I'm glad you're along. I hope everyone's surviving the COVID pandemic as best as possibly can. I know I've been stir crazy. Not been out of the house, been working from home for several weeks now, and spent a lot of time here in X-Plane flying these things. Trying to knock out some time and just stay comfortable in an airplane. This is a Mooney M20J that you're looking at here. We're going to be flying this route today. Let me take a minute here to show you kind of what we're doing. In a nutshell, I've been participating in this thing from PilotEdge called the it's called the Alphabet Challenge for the Los Angeles area. Oh, before we get too far into it, if you're in the if you're watching the stream at any point tonight, feel free to comment in the chat. I'm watching the chat on a laptop over here, so I'll be able to respond to you guys in there. But basically, the Alphabet Challenge is a list of 35 flights that they've published between airports based on the airport designator's letter abbreviations, A to Z, and then the numbers 1 to 9. So we are on. Oh my goodness, what are we on? I've completely lost. Okay, we're on M. We're on M today. We're flying here from Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport, and we've got about 135 nautical mile flight, very close to the southern border of the United States with Mexico, to a joint military and civilian airport, Yuma International. KNYL is the designator of that airport that we're flying to. We're going to fly it at 7,500 feet. We've done all of our fuel calculations here in ForeFlight, and in fact, once we get in this flight outside of this crazy airspace here, I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about ForeFlight and its integration, not just here in the flight simulator, but also in the real world, and kind of my thoughts on how it applies to private pilots, but also student pilots, and a lot of the advantages I think you get with using an app like ForeFlight with your flying. Now, if you're not familiar with PilotEdge is a service. You can find information about them at pilotedge.net. It's a subscription-based service that provides 15 hours a day, 7 days a week of air traffic control services to flight simulator pilots. They cover the LA Center region and also the whole western United States. There's 2 different packages you can buy, or you can consolidate them into one package. And so we'll be flying with real air traffic control services in the simulator tonight. A little bit more details about this flight specifically. We are here at what's the name of this airport again? Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport. This is in the San Diego Class Bravo airspace. It sits underneath of it, so we have to climb at some point to our cruise altitude of 7,500 feet because of a mountain range that is right here to the east of the Bravo airspace. You can see the mountains based on the shading of the terrain kind of down through here. So by that point, we have to be climbing to our cruise altitude, but we have a restriction. We're going to have an altitude restriction in this Class Bravo. This section here, you can see our magenta line is flying through. You can see that this Class Bravo, the bottom of the Class Bravo is from 4,800 to 10,000 feet. That's the range. So we're going to stay under 4,800. So my plan is to initially climb out to 3,500 feet and kind of stay there, and then start climbing towards the east side of this, underneath this Bravo shelf, and then just continue climbing to our cruise altitude before we get to that mountain peak. So let us jump inside the airplane and start going here. Oh, Steve, Steve-O's somehow watching this and also probably doing something else, multitasking. Good to see you, Steve. So the first thing we're going to do once we get in the airplane is get our weather. And I'm going to use ForeFlight for that as well. And I'll show you the scratch pad section of the ForeFlight app.
India, 0153 Zulu, wind 310 at Niner, visibility 10, sky condition, clear, temperature 18, dew point 12, altimeter 3005, arriving and departing runways 28 left, 28 right, visual approaches in use, read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information India.
Information India is current.
San Diego Montgomery Field, ATIS information India, 0153 Zulu, wind 310 at Niner, visibility 10, sky condition, clear, temperature 18, dew point 12, altimeter 3005, arriving and departing runways 28 left.
Alright, so we have the weather there. One thing I need to check on, I'm using this Mooney M20 airplane, which I don't fly very often, and one thing I need to check, if I can show you this, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this very well. You know, I can select my radios in the top line of this audio panel here. So I have COM 1 and I have COM 2. The mic selectors below them don't work. So I don't know who I'm really talking to. So I want to test something while we're in this plane. I'm gonna put clearance delivery in COM 2, and I'm gonna put some completely made up frequency in COM 1.
Camera ground, Warrior 7 Foxtrot, under the tower, touch.
So I'm gonna make it something that's not even real, so that if I accidentally talk on that, hopefully no one will hear me. The clearance delivery is 123.72, and because we're underneath of a Class Bravo, we got to call for we got to get a clearance from clearance delivery before we can do anything. So we have India, and we're going to Yuma International.
Cherokee 3466 Kilo. I'd like to do the CAT 4 test.
13466 Kilo, Roger. Yeah, we can do that.
Alright, I'm San Luis ground, Cherokee 3466 Kilo at transient parking, ready to taxi for departure.
13466 Kilo, San Luis ground, runway 29, taxi via Alpha.
Runway 29, taxi via Alpha, 66 Kilo.
Alpha on tower, Twin Star 695, Delta.
The other thing about PilotEdge that is interesting, you'll hear the same controller covering many frequencies, and that's just the way it is. So you have to kind of pay attention and get your checks when you can, get your calls in when you can. You have to use good common sense.
4555 until Papa, Palm Springs Tower, runway 31 right, cleared for takeoff, wind 0306. Quick takeoff, 31 right.
So I'm gonna ask for a radio check first. Montgomery clearance, Mooney 3852 Lima, radio check.
Loud and clear.
Okay, Montgomery clearance delivery, this is Mooney 3852 Lima with information India. We are looking for VFR flight following to Yuma International 7500. So I've just told him what we want.
We're 3852 Lima, departure frequency will be 100.6 and squawk 5743.
119.6 on departure and 5743 for the squawk for 3852 Lima.
3852 Lima, correct.
Okay, so what we've just done there is we've told them what we wanted to do. Yes, the guy might have been in a submarine. I'm not sure what what his deal was. You hear all kind of things from some of these folks. Okay, so we've just got our frequency and our squawk code. So we put in our transponder here. We put in 5743. That's how they'll identify us. and we know 119.6 will be our
transmitting on the Lindbergh ground, San Diego Lindbergh Airport ground.
departure frequency. So I'll put that in the standby of our COM 1 radio. 119.2 is in our primary, as that is tower. So the next people we'll call are going to be ground at 118.225. So we'll do that in COM 2 as well. 118.225.
Tower Center code 66 Mike Tango, direct turning to reach PR requesting 208.
Number 676 Mike Tango.
All right.
John Wayne Tower.
So what we have, we have our ground, we have our clearance, we have our squat code. We've put in our VORs. We're going to navigate by the 2 VORs that are listed in our flight plan. I don't know if you can see this here on my 4-flight window, but we have 2 VORs along our route of flight. The first one
November 81376 is its signature, ready to taxi for IFR. I have the information on me.
is here, the Imperial VOR, and we're flying right along the Mexico border here.
The 25 left, Alpha for 31.
To the Bard VOR, and then we're going to come south to Yuma International. So I'm going to try to navigate mainly off of VOR navigation tonight rather than just plugging in the GPS and telling it to go, because I think that'll be more fun. So now I'll show you something else that's cool. We'll go ahead and call ground for our taxi. The heck is this airport? Montgomery.
Number 7696 Foxtrot, make left close traffic report midfield downwind each time, runway 26 cleared for takeoff.
Good for takeoff 26, left traffic, report midfield, 906 Foxtrot.
Montgomery ground, Mooney 3852 Lima is at the transient parking midfield, ready to taxi VFR.
Number 3852 Lima, Montgomery ground. Runway 28 left, taxi hotel.
28 left via hotel, 3852 Lima. I'm just going to draw on here route we're going to take.
Hawthorne Tower 695 Delta.
We'll turn our taxi light on.
Heading 210.
Number 695 Delta Sierra Connect, so got a
Freight pre-flight, pre-takeoff checklist up here.
Number 170 Papa Lindbergh clearance, go ahead.
170 Papa Lindbergh clearance on the cross level, so no stop here,
170 Papa, have request, am I?
Lindbergh Tower, number 665 ACR, inbound for first stop landing with Papa.
Number 665 ATR Lindbergh Tower, roger, and a right down 1827, report midfield.
Right downwind 27, report midfield, 665 ACR.
San Luis Tower, Cherokee 3466 holding short, ready for departure to the south.
All right, so doors closed. We've got our HSI here set up along with our heading bug for our direction of flight to our first waypoint. So on departure, unless we get other instructions, we'll turn on course. Let me turn on, make sure our panel lights.
Joey Tower, Skyhawk 53176, information Charlie, Huntington Beach Pier, inbound full stop.
Number 53176.
Oh, I have missed 28 left, so I'm going to do a 360 here on the taxiway.
1300, enter left downwind 20 left, Skyhawk 53176.
Number 676, Mike Tango, 20 left, clear to land.
Clear to land 20 left, and go 6 Mike Teal.
John Wayne Tower, Archer 52326 over Huntington Pier, inbound for landing.
This is 28 left.
2326, John Wayne Tower. Roger, cross, let's see here.
So we'll switch over to tower.
300 and enter left downwind runway 20 left.
Cross over to tower 1,300 and enter a left downwind for 20 left.
I want to make sure that he told me 119.6 on departure, which he did.
Off to your right at about 2 miles, Piper. Just turn
negative contact on that traffic. Looks like he's behind us right now, Scott.
All right, so we'll go full rich.
52326. Do you have the 172?
Fuel pump is on.
In about 2.5 miles.
Flaps for takeoff.
I'm looking 52326.
Burbank Tower, 42 Juliet Alpha is on the
Trim.
ILS 8.
Trim is also set for takeoff.
Clear to land 8, 42 Juliet Alpha.
We will arm the heading mode. Nope. We'll do that once we get off.
4580, runway 27, clear to land.
And we'll call tower.
Clear to land 6580.
152-326, do you have that traffic yet? It's about your 10 o'clock now, 2.5 miles.
Insight, 52326.
326, roger, turn left, follow that traffic, cross over the tower, midfield at about 1,300.
We'll cross midfield 1,300.
326, sir, we're going to follow that traffic.
It's hard to get a word in sometimes.
52326.
Thanks, sir.
Final.
Okay, whoever's calling for radio check, stand by. And who was calling final?
126 Whiskey Kilo.
Okay, you're going to say your call sign again slower. I don't understand it.
Slowly.
Camarillo Tower, Warrior 7696 Foxtrot, way beyond midfield.
And November 7696 Fox, I didn't say you had to extend your downwind. You can turn base, your discretion, runway 26, clear for the option.
I'm going to land full south, 96 Foxtrot.
Roger.
Camarillo Ground, Cessna 90258 at Foxtrot Alpha, request taxi to 26.
Camera 258, Camera ground runway 26, taxi to Alpha.
Okay, 258 taxi via Foxtrot Alpha.
Montgomery Tower, 3852 Lima, short of 28 left, ready to go, VFR eastbound.
Number 385 Lima, Montgomery Tower, runway 28 left, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 28 left, 3852 Lima. All right, fuel pump is on, trim is set for takeoff. Mixture's full rich, props 4 forward, squawking, altitude.
466 Kilo, San Luis Tower, runway 29, clear for takeoff.
Lights are on. Final is clear as best we can tell. And here is 28 left. Solid on the runway, full power. Making good power.
Ready for our departure.
Airspeed is alive. There's 50. There is 60. Let's rotate.
For 376. Number 176, runway 20 left, clear to land.
Positive rate. Tap the brakes. Gear up.
Number 176, John Wayne Tower, runway 20 left, clear to land.
Clear land 20 left, Scott, 53176. Tower 126 Whiskey Kilo.
We'll get to about 700 feet above ground level, and we'll bring the flaps up here. About
126 Whiskey Kilo.
flaps up.
Tower, runway 21, clear for the option.
21 clear to option, 126 Whiskey Kilo.
And we'll start our right turn on course.
326, runway 20 left, clear to land, number 2, following the 172, turning base.
52326, clear to land 20 left, following the Skyhawk Archer.
Tower, number 6658 clear Charlie, and that was clear to taxi item.
Alright, there were 2 aircraft calling there, break number 3852 Lima, connect South departure.
Departure 385 Lima. Good day.
Number 6658 Sierra.
All right, we'll switch over to departure.
Frequency or on the ground, frequency to advisory approved.
Okay, I'm switching to Unicom. I will call you after that.
Presidential 69, turn right heading.
All right, let's go ahead and bring this back to 2600 RPM, 2,600 inches of manifold pressure for our climb. SoCal departure, good evening, Sky. Mooney 385 to Lima, just off Montgomery, climbing through 1,700.
Mercury 852 Lima. SoCal departure, radar contact.
Alright, so we're good there. We've got radar contact. So we will go ahead now and arm the autopilot to heading mode. And also altitude. And it will take us to 3,500 feet on this heading. We'll go ahead and now and slowly open the RAM air now that we're in clean air. So we get a little better performance here. Alright, so far this is looking real good. So let's take a look, double check our chart here. We're not currently picking up our VOR, and we're significantly slightly to the left of course. So because we can't see the VOR, for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and put this in GPS and nav and let it fly us directly where we need to be. And so what we want to do here is make sure we stay below the 4,800 foot bottom shelf of the Class Bravo here for San Diego. Good question, Steve. We should be in the air. Steve wants to know how long tonight's flight is going to be. We should be in the air for about another hour and 15 minutes or so.
Contact on Monty Tower.
SoCal approach, Cessna 5458 Tangos is 7,900.
It's going to turn my landing light off.
7,900, climbing 7,500.
Engine instruments all in the green.
5456 Tango, SoCal approach, fairing altimeter 3004.
3004, thank you, sir. 5456 Tango.
We'll go ahead and keep a real gentle climb going here up to 4,500. Just trying to stay below the Bravo shelf. There's Gillespie Field, the airport down below us. We're flying over. So a couple points to make here about, let's one at a time. About ForeFlight. ForeFlight is the app that I'm using on my iPad. And it is a paid subscription app, so there's an annual fee. And there's been some discussion in the aviation world about student pilots like myself and its benefit. I just can't believe that in 2020 there's even a debate about it. Mainly because of the situational awareness improvements that it gives you based on ADS-B traffic, your position to things, glide slope, frequencies, moving maps at airports for taxi diagrams and things. There are just so many reasons that it is such a great benefit to pilots in the real world, student pilots as well. It's not intended to take the place of using your eyes to look for other traffic. That's one of the biggest complaints that people have, is that pilots will stop looking, with their eyeballs for other planes. I just find it to be tremendously beneficial. All right, I'm going to go ahead. As you can see, we're approaching the edge of the Bravo here. The big thick blue line shows the end of the Bravo, and we still have 800 feet to go before we hit that. So I'm going to go ahead and increase my vertical speed rate of climb. I'm going to go ahead and climb to 7,500.
Radio transmission, squawk 1353 and verify type aircraft.
1353. Sorry, had to write that down. I'm an A320, and number 2 is going to be an Eclipse jet.
Alright, so we're maintaining 26 inches manifold pressure, 2600 RPM here on the climb. I'm going to go ahead and set my heading bug real quick.
Bird 212 Juliet Bravo.
I'm going to put this in heading mode instead of nav, because now the VOR is responding, and I want to fly by VOR navigation. A little more old school this time, so I'm looking at
Bravo flight is cleared to LAX direct Sadie, Victor 107 Santa Monica.
Let's go ahead and put the autopilot back in nav, and we'll follow our GPS or our VOR track.
5,000 next stop, 212 Juliet Bravo.
All right, so we're approaching 6,000 feet, our cruise altitude. Hi, Kevin. Yes, this is a different plane than I normally fly. It's a good question. I normally fly a Cessna 172, which is less power, and it's also not a complex aircraft, meaning it doesn't have retractable gear. This is a Mooney M20J. It's really, truth be told, it's the plane I would like to own someday. Because of its performance, its speed, and its fuel consumption. But it has all those things. It has a fixed speed propeller, variable pitch propeller, and retractable landing gear. So there's a lot of, it's a lot more complicated of an aircraft to fly, but it's way faster. And so on these longer legs of this Alphabet Challenge, I'm flying it because it's going to be quicker for me to complete these challenges, and I want to get time just under feeling it and understanding how this thing works. So we have a profile set up, a performance profile, that when we get to altitude and pick up speed, I know that based on my pre-flight planning and available data, that I'm going to reduce my propeller RPM to 2400 RPM and my throttle to make 21.3 inches of manifold pressure, and that will burn 9.1 gallons per hour, and we'll be making approximately I think it's 175 knots or so. Pretty good fuel performance for the amount of speed we're covering. So we're leveling off here. The autopilot's taking care of that for us. And we'll allow speed just to build just for a second, and then we're going to bring the propeller RPM back to 2400 and the manifold pressure back to 21.3 inches. So we'll go ahead and pick up a little bit of speed first.
You'll get to Santa Monica and request the LDA Alpha Blue number.
Great 1376 contact SoCal approach 128.1.
And then we'll lean the We'll lean the mixture, which means we'll reduce the amount of fuel available to the engine based on the thinness of the air, the altitude that we're at, the density of the air is the better way to say that. Let's go ahead and bring the propeller RPM back to 2400 RPM. And we'll bring the manifold pressure back to 21.3 inches.
SoCal Vision Jet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And that is our cruise power setting.
Jet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Getting about 190 miles an hour over the ground right now.
6 miles west
And we'll go ahead and now we'll start leaning the mixture. And what we're looking at is the EGT gauge over on the top right.
345, squawk 6221.
I'm watching for the engine gas temperature to increase. Till it gets to its peak. And then we're going to reduce, we'll enrich in the mixture after we get to peak by about 50 degrees or so, and run this thing 50 degrees, what we call rich of peak, or more fuel into the engine to keep the EGTs 50 degrees cooler.
Altitude 57 and frequency 127.4, squawk 2614.
53440, read that correct. Clearance for F not airborne by 0300 Zulu, type now 03.
That's the peak, so I'm going to increase it just ever slightly.
On 127.4.
Clear and void time 0232 until.
And we're configured for cruise here. Now the things we want to start thinking about.
It's currently 32, not void till 00.
Roger, thank you.
Things we'll start thinking about now are keeping track of our 2 fuel tanks. This airplane doesn't co-feed from both fuel tanks and the wings together. You have to manually switch between left and right tanks. So I'm on the left tank currently. That's what I took off with. And then the right tank, you can see, has more than the left tank fuel available. So we want to also watch, after we switch those tanks manually, we want to watch this fuel pressure gauge to make sure that nothing weird happens if we don't lose fuel pressure. So I'm going to pan down here. The fuel selector valve is on the floor. It's currently on the left tank. I'm going to switch it to the right tank while also watching the fuel pressure gauge. Fuel pressure still looks good. And we're now on the other tank.
26, position yes, Vision Jet 21255.
There's a look at our plane from the back.
No other traffic between you and the airport. Radar service terminated. Squawk VFR. Frequency change approved.
Frequency is approved. We'll squawk VFR. Thanks for the help. 555 Hotel Papa.
Info 69, turn right heading 320, vector 3D LDH, early approach.
320 for the vectors, presidential 69.
Alright, let's take a look here. We do actually.
Bravo, contact SoCal approach 124.5.
Yeah, the IPL VOR is our next stop. The DME is work. 128.6, 3852 Lima. So he just handed us off to a center controller at 128.6. We were still with approach. We'll switch over to LA Center, and we'll check in with him as soon as we get an opportunity. LA Center, good evening. Mooning 3852 Lima, 7,500.
Return to the Bravo flight, SoCal approach, Los Angeles altimeter 3005, expected missile approach at 824 right. Word. Right, 5456, you just got the approval from the tower to send you over to them. Contact for main tower. 3852 Lima, I think you were texting a minute ago. I'll have the Imperial altimeter for you momentarily. For 3852 Lima, the Imperial altimeter 3001.
0152 Lima. So he just gave us the nearest altimeter setting to our current location, 3001. So I'll now adjust my altimeter setting accordingly. Whoops, that is not my altimeter. 3001. And the autopilot will correct for that to keep us at our 7,500, which we've set it for. So what I was going to say before we had to check in with someone else is there's another piece of equipment in the airplane. This is called DME, distance measuring equipment. And basically I have a selector where I can tell it to pay attention to my NAV1 radio or my NAV2 radio, which I can tune to various VORs along my route of flight. And so we're navigating with our NAV1 radio, which is pointed towards the IPL VOR. It's tuned to the IPL VOR. And so what this DME is telling us is that we're 43.0 nautical miles from there and are currently running 179 knot speed towards the VOR. So what I like to do when I'm going to be navigating from VOR to VOR is I like to put in my second VOR waypoint in my NAV2 so that I already know what my heading change is going to be. So I've got 116.8. 116.8 is my second nav. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in NAV2. And then we'll be able to track that here and also know what kind of a turn we need to make. It's not going to be very much. The route stays pretty much straight through this whole thing, but we can already get an idea of what our turn is going to be as we cross. So it's basically no change, and you can see that in our route here. It's just here's the first waypoint. If you can see this in ForeFlight. So here's our airplane. Our airplane is coming in from the left side of your screen currently to this VOR point. And you can see there's just an ever so slight left-hand turn as we move on to the next VOR, which is out here. So the route doesn't change very much, but I like to keep it, I like to use NAV2 if I'm going from one VOR waypoint to the next VOR waypoint in order to keep, just so I know what my next turn is going to look like when we get there.
Go ahead.
Everything looks great. Engine instruments are in the green. Our cruise power is set.
4258 squawk 2566 is the aircraft type. Affirmative.
Also, if Kevin was asking, or Steve was asking how long my flight would be because there's potential for some other activity online after the flight, I would be totally up for that if everyone else is. So, I'm showing 29 minutes to my destination.
Number 12345, radar service terminates 1 VFR 60
I'm also using this app. I don't know if you guys can see this. It'll be hard to see on the little camera. I've got an app called Remote Flight Radio HD running on this other iPad. This app talks to my simulator, and I can control all my nav and comm radios and my autopilot and my transponder from that iPad app, so I don't have to use a mouse. It just feels a little bit more real to be using the
53440, SoCal departs right in.
Here's something else. One of my favorite features about ForeFlight. You guys can see these other airplanes,
Contact the mile west of Santa Cabin, the dealer.
like these little turquoise targets here.
Remember 813, did you pause there for a minute, or did you have some sort of scenery glitch?
That's other traffic. These guys are coming up behind us. It's showing that they are 4,100 feet above us,
257 Charlie might fly heading 170.
and they're behind me, so we're not going to see those, but that's just another traffic awareness tool.
Taking off from Silex, turn right heading 050, maintain 4,000 till establish on the localizer grid. LDA Charlie approach, full runway 34 left. And 69, my mistake, it is 34 right for the circle.
And we're 28 and a half miles to the Imperial VOR. And up here on our left, we got a couple of airports. Got El Centro Naval Air Facility and Imperial County. So that's a naval air facility over there on our left. You can see glowing kind of at our 11 o'clock.
You're on your own there. If you want vectors, let us know when you make your request, and we can vector you. But otherwise, we're going to normally just let you do the full approach. Mark 25.
Once we cross this next VOR, the next thing we'll do is we'll start figuring out our approach into our destination, Yuma International. We'll figure out, we'll try to get the weather there. We'll start taking care of some of those details.
Clear aisle to 820 right approach.
Just taking a look again at engine gauges, fuel tanks. Engine gauges look good. We're on the right tank currently. So we'll let the right tank get down to kind of where the left tank is. And then we'll switch again. We did our fuel calculations before we left and made sure we have enough fuel for this flight, plus I put another 2 hours of fuel on the plane. Especially for night flights, it's always a good idea to just have plenty of available fuel. Maintain
6,000, expecting 900,000, 1 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 135.4, squawk 2035.
Yeah, I see that the stream is showing it significantly darker than it really is. Oops. I'm turning up the brightness as much as possible. It may have improved a little bit just now. But I see that the stream is rendering darker than the than I see it.
We're 720 megahertz.
All right, we are 15 miles from the VOR.
Bravo, turn left heading 060.
VOR is just a it's just a ground-based radio station. Basically, it's got
Number 212 Juliet Bravo, turn
it's
left heading
omnidirectional, but it
060.
sends out little legs that are the instruments in our airplanes can determine what radio we're on or what angle, angle's not the right word, what orientation we are to or from the VOR station.
You did that for the wrong. You're a little late on the vector. No problem there. Make it a 040. Now turn left heading 040.
That is the Naval Air Facility over there to the left that you see.
LA Center, good evening, South 309, flight level 350.
Chief Heavy Roger. Heavy Roger, call calling again.
LA Center, good evening, Southwest 309, flight level 350.
West 309, I'll head to Roger.
We'll go ahead and take a look at the chart here for the airport we're flying to. Yuma International. The ATIS is 118.8. So we'll go ahead and put that in our comm too so we can be ready to get the weather. Take a look at the taxi diagram, just get an idea.
Number 737X Alpha, contact SoCal approach 134.2. Number 212 Juliet Bravo, descend and maintain 3000.
And that air,
5 knots to Sierra, 5 miles from 1 up, fly heading 210, maintain 4.
the airport you see out to the left now is Imperial County. Imperial County Municipal.
Verify. Verify 3440, contact SoCal approach 128.1.
All right, we're 7 miles from our next waypoint. We're flying really based on VOR navigation right now, but we have our GPS, our Garmin 430 here as a backup. That would normally be Alex would like me to put fuzzy dice hanging from the compass up here. I'd normally just turn this on autopilot and let the GPS fly it, but I like to practice navigation by VOR. So, but should something happen to any of our nav equipment and our GPS would still work, we have a secondary source. I've programmed the flight plan. It knows where we're going, so we can fall back on that at any time. So, I've put the second VOR waypoint that we're currently tracking down here on our nav2 radio as a standby on our nav1, and I'm going to switch it over here in just a second so that we can adjust this VOR1 to the correct, because it's what's driving the autopilot. So it won't hurt anything for me to change it right now. I'm going to go ahead and do that, actually.
77X Alpha, Roger, flight heading 340 vectors to 40 ILS.
I lied. It will hurt something.
For 212 Juliet Bravo, flight turn right heading 210.
So we'll leave it steering to the original VOR until we're at the VOR,
Contact Palomar Tower.
and then we'll switch it over. I thought it would wait for me to adjust the OBS, but it does not apparently. So we'll switch it here in just a second. We're about 1 mile off the VOR. Let's go ahead and do it. So this autopilot really overturns. I've noticed it doing this even on GPS nav, where it'll fly right through the switch.
258, you're still with SoCal approach, contact Oxnard Tower. Southwest 309, descend via to Ironman 2 arrival.
Descend via Ironman 2, Southwest 309.
Now it's getting it dialed in.
222 Juliet Bravo, flight Los Angeles Airport, 3 o'clock, 11 miles from port site. 222 Juliet Bravo, clear to
We're 42 miles from there. Let's see if we can pick up the weather frequency here.
Information uniform 0157 Zulu, wind 350 at Niner, visibility 10,
1376, contact
sky
John Wayne Tower,
conditions
126.8,
clear, temperature 25, dew point -8, altimeter 3001, arriving and departing runways 3 left, 3 right, 26, 35. Visual approaches in use, read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact, you have information uniform.
All right, we have information uniform at Yuma.
Yuma International Airport.
350 at 9. So I would definitely prefer runway 35. Let's take a look. Let's see how we're going to be coming here. They said they were landing 3 left, 3 right, 26 and 35. I would take either 3 left or 3 right or 35. The FBO is easily accessible off of 3 left. So if I can get 3 left, I'll take it. Maybe we can get a left downwind entry, like this is our route of flight coming this way. Be great if we could enter like right here on a left downwind, circle in for 3 left, and then our FBO is over on that side, on the left side of the airport.
Number 14, off of your SoCal approach.
We'll see what they give us.
6019, form SoCal approach right in.
All right, left and right fuel tanks are about even now. I'm going to switch back over to the left tank, and we'll use the right tank for descent and landing.
Uniform radar contact 5 miles west of Paradise COR, climb maintain 900,000.
Don't forget, if you're just joining the stream, feel free to...
Contact Yuma approach 125.55.
Approach on 124.55 for 52 Lima.
52 Lima negative 125.55.
2555, 52 Lima, good day.
100 restricted at 2,400.
204 Lima Echo, so-called departure. Enter transfer altitude, restriction, resume on navigation.
Oh, nav and altitude, TBN at 204 Lima Echo.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What just happened there?
Do you want us to maintain 340 or are we cleared to join the approach?
We're 737
What is happening?
Give you to turn there, turn right heading 100.
What is happening? What is happening? What is happening?
Right under 4 Delta Romeo, send number departure, negative radar contact, verify transponder on.
That was one of those crazy weather updates that happens occasionally in X-Plane for me, where things just completely go off the rails here.
Affirmative on flight following 204 Lima Echo.
204 Lima Echo, Roger, what's your cruise altitude for today?
Let's get back on course here. Back down to 7,500. Good Lord.
SoCal departure, 43 Juliet Alpha is going through 1,700 for 5,000 on a heading at 175.
For 42 Juliet Alpha, SoCal departure, radar contact, climb and maintain 8,000.
Up to 8,000, 42 Juliet Alpha.
Yuma approach, Mooney 385 Chilima with you, 7,800.
For 385 Lima, Yuma approach, Yuma altimeter 3001.
015 Chilima.
For 737 X-ray Alpha, 5 miles from Jeanette, fly heading 130, maintain 5,000.
All right, so now we're getting back to stabilized. I'm going to rearm the autopilot and let it kind of take over the trimming here.
Number 422 Alpha, clear direct seal beach VOR.
Direct seal beach, 42 Juliet Alpha.
It's just having a real hard time here. All right, we're going to disengage the autopilot. It's obviously malfunctioning. All right, let's... see if we can troubleshoot this a little bit. Yeah, it felt like a runaway trim situation there, Steve-O. That's exactly what it felt like, a runaway trim. So let me give me a minute here to gotta get this figured out, what's happened exactly. Like it's just pitching up.
Has established pursuit.
Now, what's our flying Fagan? Number 737 Alpha, contact Van Nuys Tower.
All right. Approach 385 Chilima has uniform and Yuma in sight.
And aircraft flying to field and site Fagan.
It's Mooney 385 Chilima. We have Yuma and information uniform.
For 3852 Lima, Roger.
So here are the challenges.
Approach for Delta Romeo request.
I'm gonna land, Kevin, in 10 minutes. Eight minutes. Here are the things I want to point out. So I'm in a unfamiliar aircraft whose autopilot's misbehaving at night, flying an approach to an airport I've never flown into. So this has all the makings to be an adventure all the way in here. Oh, and I'm also right along the U.S.-Mexico border, so I'm trying to stay in U.S. airspace the best I can. But there's that little, detail as well. But that is Yuma Airport. I don't know if you can see it on the stream right off our nose. It's a joint military-civilian airport.
Approach TBM 204 Lima. I would like to cancel flight following.
Dare I arm the autopilot again?
309, contact SoCal approach 124.5.
Let's just see if I adjust the heading bug. I'm going to put it in heading mode and altitude. See if it'll hold us right here on this heading and altitude.
TBM 204 Lima Echo. See you. SoCal approach, good evening, South 309, got a flight level 181 to 78, Ironman 2 with it.
I'm 14 miles up. There went the pitch again. You see that? Yep, there's a pitch trim problem. So here's what we're going to do anyway. I'm going to turn our landing light on. I'm going to power back. We need to be descending anyway. I'm just going to start a descent here.
Okay, expect visual 248 Southwest 309, thank you.
Alright.
Yeah, 92 uniform, go ahead for SoCal. SoCal, go for 92 uniform. 92 uniform, gonna be non-passing grade on I-11. You're holding on the wrong side of Paradise. Copy that. Well, it continues for the practice. 92 uniform, roger.
1,200 feet is the pattern altitude at Yuma. So we've got a way to go. We'll turn our landing light on. We'll start enriching the mixture slowly as we descend.
Will be available on the ground. You're passing so far. Contact SoCal approach 119.6.
19.640.
Actually, SoCal, Archer 92 uniform, we're going to go ahead and restart and try this again.
92 uniform, roger.
I'm going to set my...
Cessna 534, SoCal approach, Oceanside altimeter 3004.
3004 and having information Romeo 440.
Little arrow up for 02s because I'm expecting us.
Contact Tamo 119.3, keep this clock.
119.3, 3852 Lima. Yeah, this is where it gets interesting, fellas. Real interesting here.
What's calling? November 1980 for Whiteman ground, ready for taxi, information Sierra.
Number 198, Whiteman ground, runway 30, taxi Alpha.
Runway 30, taxi Alpha, November 1980.
Yuma Tower, Skyhawk 3, Mooney 3852 Lima, 7 miles northwest inbound with uniform, full stop.
Number 3852 Lima, Yuma Tower.
Left downwind for 3 left.
Right downwind, runway 26, report midfield.
All right, right downwind for 26, we'll report midfield, 52 Lima. All right, right downwind for 26.
Perfect, ground vision jet 224 Papa Lima, general aviation, taxi runway 8.
So that's going to kind of be, all right, let me reset my heading indicator.
8 via Charlie, Port Papa Lima.
That's going to kind of be like... that. Yeah, this is effectively where we want to be coming from. This is fine. I don't like it as much with the winds. Winds were 350 at 9. I'm going to put my heading bug on the winds. Alright, and 1,300 feet is our pattern altitude, so we still need to get... Let's go ahead and put the prop full. Let's go ahead and close the ram air. Put the prop full forward. Landing lights on. Fuel boost pump is on.
Alpha contact, circle approach 134.2.
We got to get slowed down here under 140 or 130, and we'll get the gear down.
Circle approach 125.2.
This is runway 26 here, the one we're lining up parallel with. 1,300 feet is pattern altitude. Let's get slowed down. We're full rich on the mixture. Prop is full forward. We're almost to 130 knots where we can put the gear down. There it is, gear. Alright, I have 3 green.
John White Tower, Station 257, Charlie Mike, inbound on the ILS 20 right.
Station 42 Alpha, fly heading 280, descend and maintain 4000. Station 257, Charlie Mike, John White Tower, and with 20 right, clear to land.
20 right, clear to land, 257, Charlie Mike.
November 1980, White Tower, and with 30, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 30, November 1980.
Alright, almost to pattern altitude.
Perfect, Tower Vision Jet 224, Pop Latest, hovering short of runway 8, IFR.
Vision Jet 224, Papa Lima, Irving Tower, hold short of runway 8, expect a 2-minute delay.
2 minutes, hold short, runway 8, 2 minutes, 4 Papa Lima.
November 2 Juliet, Alpha, fly heading 250.
Yuma Tower, Mooney 385, Chilliam is midfield, runway 26.
Mooney 5 to Lima, 26, clear to land.
Cleared to land, runway 26, Mooney 385, Chilliam. Alright, let's call that a beam. Let's start our descents here. First notch of flaps comes in.
TBM 731 Alpha, Santa Monica altimeter 3005. I'm showing you divergent from the missed approach procedure. Send attention.
We'll turn to base here in a second.
No, but I'm going to say your request at this point.
Alright, let's go ahead and turn our base leg here for 26. My turn coordinator is not working. You see that? Or my attitude indicator, I mean.
Descend and maintain 4000, vector for LDHN, we final approach course.
I mean, let's just add one more thing to this frickin' shit show of an approach.
Not clear yet, that's the vector for approach.
Wow.
Alpha 2 Juliet Alpha, descend and maintain 3000, Santa Monica Airport, 11 o'clock and 10 miles, report on site.
Alright, let's turn final.
Alpha 2 Juliet Alpha, good visual approach, runway 21, contact Santa Monica Tower.
There's the field, there's the runway.
Southwest 309, contact circle approach, 128.5.
Flaps full. Because as per usual in this airplane, I'm high and fast.
Southwest 309, circle approach, descend and maintain 3000.
Confirm we're lined up for 26.
Alpha 4 Juliet Alpha, Santa Monica Tower, runway 21, clear to land.
One thing in this Mooney, I don't want to have a ton of extra speed because it floats. Alright, fuel pump. Lights 3 green. Props full forward. Mixture's rich.
Number 4 Papa Lima, runway 8, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 224 Papa Lima.
Power's out because we've got a ton of extra energy here.
Number 1980, contact local departure 134.2. DBM 7X Alpha, contact local
There's
approach
the runway
134.2.
26. Start our round out here. Start our flare.
Number 1980, local departure, contact.
Oh my. Greased it in. Greased it in. See where we're supposed to go here.
Runway 2, radio tower 13770, IFR to Palomar, information Charlie, and we're doing the India 2 rating.
25 to Lima, taxi to parking via Lima, monitor ground, have a good day.
Parking via Lima, we'll monitor ground 5 to Lima. Where is
309, turn right heading 220. Number 4 Papa Lima, contact local departure.
We got to get off the runway at some point here.
Number 1377 Sierra John Lane clearance squid to Palma Airport. Special standby clearance as one request. DBM 737 X-ray Alpha, local approach, turn right, heading 040, descend and maintain 3,400.
Seven.
3,400.
Entered runway 1.
Southwest 309, descend maintain 2,400.
Yuma Tower 385 to Lima. We missed Lima. Can we back taxi about 100 feet?
Number 7 X Alpha, 6 miles from Silex, fly heading 060, maintain 3,400 until established on the localizer. Clear LDH highway approach, circle to runway 16 left.
This is also something you would never do in the real world.
Number 2 to Lima, circle departure, contact, turn right heading 330, climb and maintain 14,000.
But in the sim world, sometimes you got to do what you got to do when they're so busy. I'm just going to pop off here on Lima.
1 o'clock and 8 miles, report inside. Southwest 309, clear visual approach, runway 24 right, contact Los Angeles Tower.
There we go, clear of 26 at Lima. So now we can flip over to ground real quick.
Number 5 to Papa Lima, no problem about missing the taxiway, but don't backtrack the runway without clearance.
5 to Lima.
Los Angeles Tower, Southwest 309, just outside Jetso, visual 24 right.
Southwest 309, Los Angeles Tower, runway 24 right, clear to land.
All right, let's just park up here on the ramp. All right, thanks everybody for hanging out tonight. Appreciate it. You got to hear me get scolded there at the end for missing my turn off and back taxiing without permission, but it's all good. So we would just pull over here to the ramp. We pull over to the ramp, set our parking brake, turn off our lights other than our beacon, turn off fuel pump. Avionics master will go off, and then mixture goes to idle, and master mags, and we are shut down. Night everybody.